You know, when we think about history, what usually comes to mind? Probably dusty old books, maybe some famous monuments. But what if I told you that some of the most amazing stories are being discovered right now? Not with a pen, but with a shovel and a GPS unit. Today, we're going to dig into Pennsylvania's buried past, a history that is literally right under our feet. I mean, we all know the big names, right? We've walked the fields of Gettysburg, we've read the plaques. But what archaeology is showing us is that even in the most famous, most studied places, the ground is holding on to secrets that can totally change what we thought we knew. The full story? It's far from over. So, just how much hidden history are we talking about here? Well, check out this number. As of 2021, there are over 26,000 recorded archaeological sites across Pennsylvania. Let that sink in. That's more than 26,000 little windows into the past, and every single one has its own unique story. It's just a staggering amount of history waiting for us. Okay, so how are all these thousands of sites actually being found? This isn't like in the movies with some treasure hunter and an old crumbling map. Modern archaeology is a super systematic, high-tech hunt for clues, and it's a field that's changing all the time. And this isn't something that just happened in the past. This is a living, breathing field of discovery. Just in one recent year, more than 300 new sites were officially added to the books. It just goes to show you, while the history might be old, the work of uncovering it is happening as we speak. What's so cool about the process today is that it's this powerful mix of old-school fieldwork and brand new tech. On one side, you've got archaeologists out there literally getting their hands dirty, sifting through the soil, and on the other, you have these incredible digital tools that can manage and share all that information instantly. A perfect example of this is a system called P-Share. And let me tell you, this thing is a total game changer. What used to be a really slow, paper-based process is now all online. New finds can be logged, mapped, and shared with researchers all over the place in seconds. It has completely revolutionized how this hidden history gets tracked. So who's actually finding all this stuff? Well, the answer is pretty fascinating. The vast majority, almost 80%, comes from what's called cultural resources management. That's usually tied to construction projects where, by law, they have to check the ground before they start digging. But look, it's not just them. You've got state researchers, universities, and even passionate individuals and archaeology buffs contributing. It's a real team effort. All right, let's look at a real-world example because this is where it gets really exciting. We're going to zoom way in on one of the most famous pieces of ground in America. Little Round Top at Gettysburg. This is a place where archaeology isn't just confirming what we already know, it's adding these incredible new layers of detail to the story. And you might be asking a pretty fair question. I mean, with all the eyewitness accounts, military reports, and detailed maps from Gettysburg, what could a few buried objects possibly tell us that we don't already know? Well, as it turns out, the answer is a whole lot. This is the spot. On the second day of the battle, this rocky hill was the scene of some of the most desperate, chaotic fighting of the entire Civil War. Union troops were literally scrambling to get up here just minutes ahead of a Confederate charge. Holding this piece of high ground was absolutely critical for the Union Army, and the fight that followed was just unbelievably brutal. So, how did they find new clues in a place that's been walked over by millions of people? It wasn't random digging. They used this meticulous step-by-step process. First, they swept the area with metal detectors. Every time they got a ping, they would carefully excavate what was there. And, here's the most crucial part, they mapped the exact location of every single find with a super precise GPS unit. Every artifact got its own coordinate. And what did they find? They found these dropped and fired mini balls. These are the literal, tangible leftovers from the chaos of that battle. But here's the thing to remember. These aren't just cool relics. They're data points. Every single one tells a story of a specific moment, of a specific soldier, in a precise location on that battlefield. And this is where it all comes together. They didn't just find random bullets. They found a whole bunch of a very specific type of unfired bullet, this big .69 caliber round. Now, this type of ammo was a known favorite of one particular unit, the Pennsylvania Reserves, nicknamed the Bucktails. Finding this stash right in this spot is physical proof of exactly where that unit formed their defensive line. It's like a fingerprint, and it adds a level of detail that the history books, which usually focus on the generals, could never give us.
Okay, so we've just gone super detailed on one tiny piece of a battlefield. Now let's zoom way, way out to a discovery that reshapes our view of an entire landscape, a story that's thousands of years old. We're going to shift from the battlefield to the riverbed.
So if you were just standing on the bank of the Susquehanna River, it looks beautiful, right? A peaceful, scenic waterway. You would have absolutely no idea that it's hiding this massive, man-made landscape just beneath the surface. But when you change your perspective, everything changes. Using tools like Google Earth and old aerial photos, researchers found something incredible, these distinct V-shaped patterns showing up in the riverbed. And these are not natural formations. No way. This is the work of human hands on an almost industrial scale, and it's been hidden in plain sight this whole time. So what are we looking at? These are called fish weirs. They're these huge V-shaped walls built out of stone right on the bottom of the river. The design is just genius in its simplicity. As fish swim downstream, they get funneled by these walls into a narrow point where they could be easily trapped or caught. It's an ancient, super effective technology that tells an unwritten story of some seriously sophisticated engineering. And the scale of this discovery, it's just mind-blowing. So far, researchers have identified 240 of these structures just in the Susquehanna River system alone. 240. This wasn't just a few small traps. This was a vast, interconnected system for harvesting food that supported whole communities for generations. So, you see, whether we're talking about pinpointing the exact spot where a company of soldiers stood at Gettysburg or uncovering an ancient food system hidden in a river, the lesson is the same. The story of our past is still being written. You know, the lead archaeologist on the Gettysburg Project, Eric Croach, he put it perfectly. He said that what they find allows for insights that are not often documented in such detail through historical narratives. And that's really the heart of it. Archaeology doesn't just repeat what's in the history books, it fills in the gaps. It tells the stories of everyday people and captures the moments that were never written down. And really, this sums up the big shift in how we think about this stuff. We used to kind of see history as this fixed, finished story, something you just read in a book. But now we see it for what it is, an active investigation. It's a giant puzzle where new pieces are being found every single day, and they're constantly refining and sometimes completely changing the picture we thought we had. And that's maybe the most exciting part of all. This isn't just happening in famous battlefields or huge rivers. Every town, every field, every single neighborhood has layers and layers of history right underneath it. So the real question is, what unwritten stories are buried just under your feet? Thanks for digging in with us.